a loose end. Trixie, Chapter 26 of Eyes on You. Ugh, thank goodness I thought we'd never get away, Twilight groaned. She stepped into the hotel room, stepping for her breath just inside. Trixie followed after her and closed the door with a flick of the tail. The smile on her lips was weary, but it was a smile nonetheless. She felt just as tired as Twilight. But she lying through her teeth, she said she hadn't enjoyed every minute of the post-victory parade. You signed up for this when you decided to help me with the display, you know, said Trixie. Twilight halted to start out down the hall, heading straight for the bedroom. I know, she grumbled. She didn't sound overly irritated, but she obviously wasn't in a playful mood. Unrolling her neck and checking that the door was shut behind her, Trixie followed Twilight into the bedroom. Twilight had barely a few seconds lead, but when Trixie stepped in the room, it was just in time to see the purple unicorn fall down on the bed, face first, and let out another groan. Trixie's lips curled to the side in a question. Are you sure you're alright? There was a moment of silence. Trixie simply stared at the back of her partner's head, whilst Twilight herself tried to inhale the lovely pink blankets. Then, seemingly out of the blue, Twilight began to shake with a silent giggle. All right, she said, rolling to her side to flash Trixie an enormous grin. I feel incredible! I'm just so exhausted. If I'd known you were going to make us celebrate all afternoon. Trixie rolled her eyes playfully. It's not like we had anything other to do than wave and shake a few hoes. That's easy for you to say, Twilight chuckled. You're used to this kind of thing, but I never had that much attention. I never knew how tiring it was. She rolled herself onto the edge of the bed and sat up. The bell around her neck was engulfed with a purple glow as she used matches to lift it off and drop it down at her bedside table. Trixie smiled and shook her head as she moved to the other side of the bed. I know what you mean. She came to a stop as she reached her own bedside table, looked past the firefly lamp and smiled down at the golden hoof mirror that lay atop it, her present from Twilight. Wasn't everything that something so wonderfully magical came into Trixie's possession? If she hadn't a chance to use it as much as she would have liked, what would the display taking up all her time? She took the chance now, while she could, to lift the mirror with her magic and watch the image within swim into focus. At first, it showed nothing but a plain image of the room's ceiling. But a second later, as Twilight turned her head, Trixie saw herself reflected in the mirror. A radiant blue unicorn with a lush silver mane whose neck hung a glittering platinum medallion. The unicorn was smiling, as he seemed to only get happier as he felt the rush of emotions that came from seeing herself through Twilight's eyes. Trixie stared in wonder and warmth at the mare in the mirror for what might have been minutes, before finally putting it to one side, turning to face Twilight. She was met with the most loveliest smiles and a glistening pair of violet eyes that held so much kindness and caring. It was just as beautiful a sight as the witch mirror held, maybe even more so. Lifting the medal from her own neck and setting it down on the table, Trixie climbed to the bed herself and laid her head back on the pillow. She took a deep breath through her nose and let it out another blissful sigh. She couldn't remember the last time she felt so fulfilled. I'm still mad at you, no, said Twilight, though her voice said nothing of the sort. Already smirking, Trixie defined the very poor imitation of a grumpy frown on Twilight's face. Mad at moi, she said, already knowing perfectly well. Whatever for? Twilight gave her a deadpan look. Did you have to kiss me in front of the princess? Trixie smirked widely and mischievously. Did you have to enjoy it so much? She countered. At that, Twilight's cheeks went red. Though she tried to hold her grumpy face steady, there was definitely a smile creeping through. Yes, well, Twilight huffed, I guess I can forgive you. It was kind of exciting to win after all. And, said Trixie. Twilight looked defiantly up at the ceiling and tried desperately to suppress her grin. And I did kind of like it, she muttered. Trixie grunted the affirmative, the grin now fulfilling her own face. If, 2 months ago, somebody had said to Trixie she was going to end up kissing Twilight Sparkle in front of the princess, and later sharing a double bed with her, she would have told them they were out of their mind. And now, that was exactly what had happened. It seemed like the most normal, natural thing in the world. Twilight shifted on the bed. The hotel offered to put us up for another week, free of charge, she said quietly. Trixie's smile didn't fade, so much as it mellowed out a bit. She took a breath through her nose before replying, "And what did you tell them?" "I turned them down," said Twilight almost apologetically. "I really would like to spend another week here with you, without the pressure of display, but, well, they're all waiting for you back in Ponyville," Trixie finished for her. Twilight nodded. "I just really miss my friends. I know it's only been a week, but I haven't been away from them for this long since we all met, and I can't wait to tell them all about this. They're going to be so proud." The smile on Trixie's face froze for a split second. "Proud?"
"I'm proud of you, Trixie,"
Flare had said. Trixie blinked, then shook herself, hoping Twilight hadn't noticed her hesitation. "Of course they're going to be proud. Their best friend just won one of the most prestigious magical competitions in Equestria." Twilight gave a little giggle. She rolled her head to the side and smiled into Trixie's eyes. "With help, of course." There was a moment's pause, unless Trixie wondered whether to take being called help as a teasing jab, or just Twilight being cute and meaning to say thank you. Deciding it was the latter, Trixie simply smiled back. "So," said Twilight, "you're not upset I won't be staying in Manhattan?" "Not really," said Trixie, with a casual shake of her head. "I changed my mind about that stable across town. I wasn't planning on staying anyway." "Oh, I see." A silver uncertainty swam across Twilight's face as he broke eye contact and looked down at the sheets. She was still smiling, but it was easy for Trixie to tell something was wrong. "Maybe she was hoping I'd convince her to stay for another week." Trixie considered it. What she said was true. She rather fancied a change of scenery. It seemed strange, even to her, since it was here in Manhattan she was likely to reap the most benefit from her new title as champion. There would be fans coming up to her in the street, pulling offering her gifts, and free lodging wherever she went, even big names offering to pay her to put on a magic show for them. Yet, she still didn't particularly feel like staying. Twilight looked up to meet Trixie's eyes again, reminding her she had been silent for a bit longer than was normal. While the Twilight flickered ahead and appointed call to refocus herself, Trixie fixed her partner with a slight smile. "Well, Twilight Sparkle, if this is to be our last night in Manhattan," she began dramatically, "then we should at least do our best to enjoy it." Twilight blinked twice and paused. Though a smile clearly tugged at her lips, she kept her mouth in a firm line. "Did you have something special in mind?" "As a matter of fact." Trixie shifted a little closer to Twilight in bed. Twilight's poker face broke, until a smile overcame her. As the one smirked, the Trixie channeled a now quite familiar spell through her horn, lit up and cast a hint of its signature magenta glow over Twilight's face, causing the adorable unicorn to make a questioning face at Trixie. An appropriate magical flask, a quart tinted bottle appeared midway, just above the two of them, filled with clear liquid. Another gentler flask, and two champagne flutes appeared beside it. Twilight looked up the bottle, blinked, and then smiled. "You're getting awfully good at that," she said. Trixie gave a modest little shrug. She uncorked the bottle with magic, sat up right against the headboard, and poured them each a glass of Manhattan's finest champagne. "Here's to Manhattan," Trixie toasted. "For bring Twilight Sparkle and I, two fiercely dirty unicorns, together as friends and partners." Twilight bit her lip to hold back a giggle. "We're not all that different," she said, sitting up next to Trixie, taking one glass in her own magical grip. "I think that working towards the display just helped us realize that." Trixie nodded grantedly. "Sounds good to me." Twilight mimicked a nod. "Of course it does," she said, clinking her glass against Trixie in a toast. "Now, tell me about that light spell of yours." "I think they're gonna bang. Just a hunch." When Trixie awoke the following morning, it wasn't a dreamy or romantic sort of feeling that greeted her, despite the warm, cinnamon scent of Twilight's mane, which her nose was buried. Nor was it a headache from too much wine the night before. They only had one glass each.
They also probably were doing something else, if you know what I mean.
Her eyes drifted over slowly, as she blinked a couple of times into the gentle darkness of their bedroom. It was very early. By all rights, they should have nestled back down and gone straight back to sleep for another 3 or 4 hours. But she didn't. Instead, she rolled onto her back and drew a slow but noisy breath through her nose. She didn't really feel like going back to her dreams. Staring at the ceiling of the hotel room, she found her mind beginning to fill with melancholy thoughts. Somewhere along the line, this had become familiar. Waking up in a proper bed with plush pillows and big, warm, heavy blankets, she got used to it. Opening her eyes to find herself in a proper bedroom, walls and windows and a ceiling, and something other than the roof of a traveling caravan or stable. She got used to that too. Now, over the past few days, waking up next to someone, next to Twilight, I was starting to feel like she got used to that too. It wasn't normal, not for Trixie. She was Soulmare, a traveler, a loner. This kind of living was something other ponies took for granted, and Trixie prided herself on being different from the norm. Or at least she used to. Trixie crumpled her nose and rolled her head to the side. Her eyes fell on the firefly lamp on her bedside table. She had covered it before falling asleep, but the insects within had stopped glowing, and there was no more light. She couldn't help but wonder how they felt about their living arrangements. Were they comfortable, living under the same roof all the time? Did they feel trapped? Did they like to sneak out and do their own thing to be free? Both curious and concerned for the fireflies, Trixie magically reached out to open the hatch on the top of the lamp. As soon as they felt the movement, the little lightning bugs lit up and zipped towards the opening, escaping into the room proper. Trixie watched them flit around for a moment, enjoying the open air, before they buzzed over towards the doors that led out to the balcony. They dipped through a parting in the currents and disappeared. After a moment of staring after them, Trixie noticed there was a gentle breeze tugging at the curtains. Honestly, the door had been left ajar just an inch. For a brief few seconds, she considered putting it from her mind and shutting her eyes again. But her head seemed to be having none of it this morning, and as an aside, she kind of wanted to see where the fireflies were running off to. Gently pulling herself away from Twilight's warm aura, Trixie slid out of bed and strode over to the balcony doors, pulling them open just wide enough to step outside before closing them behind her. The view from the balcony told the sun had a good hour left before it was getting ready to rise, and as Trixie stepped up to the edge and rested her hose on the ornate railing, she was missed with a picture of a sleeping Manhattan. This still felt relatively new, at least. She'd only been in Manhattan for a week. In the past, Trixie had sometimes stayed in towns and cities for 2 or 3 before moving on, though it was rare as she kept company for longer than that. She didn't stay in touch with anyone once she moved away from a place. She never had reason to. Trixie's eyes settled on a particular building as they scanned the city. Once again, a nose she was looking for. The train station. The gears began turning into her head. She saw the escaped fireflies buzzing off in the city proper, in search of new horizons. Her face squared, she got another side to her nose. Twilight, there's something I have to do. I'll be at the train station. See you later. After hastily scribbling a kiss on the end of the note, Trixie laid it down on Twilight's bedside table, kissed the sleepy unicorn on the forehead, and hurried out the door. The first hints of dawn light were creeping over the horizon when Trixie arrived at the platform she was looking for. A few dozen ponies were already hanging about the platform ahead, all in various stages of tiredness, and all presumably waiting for their trains. Trixie was there for one pony in particular. Her eyes roamed the platform. It didn't take her long to find him. There, straight ahead, at the very edge of the platform, stood Flare. He was talking quietly with Rose as the two waited for their own train, and neither of them had noticed her. Trixie hesitated for all 3 seconds before flicking back her mane and starting towards them. The hooves felt heavy, as if she was trying to walk with steel horseshoes. She might have blamed it on the early hour, as she didn't know full well she was wide awake and full of energy. Something about walking towards him, here and now, just waiting for him to turn around and see her, made Trixie feel uncomfortable. Not because she thought he was going to make a scene or try to put her down. In fact, it was because she had no idea what to expect. It was unnerving, and Trixie didn't like it. Sure enough, Flare did turn, and saw Trixie approaching while she was still a fair distance away. He didn't offer a look of surprise or shock or anything like that. All Trixie received was the tiniest hint of a smile as Flare looked back to Rose and said something to her in a low voice. Rose's gaze sought curiously over to Trixie before turning over to Flare. She gave him a look, as if asking where he was sure. He simply nodded, with an understanding smile and a nod of her own, Rose turned and made her way down to the edge of the platform, towards a nearby bench. Flair, on the other hand, started to make his way towards Trixie. They met halfway. There was a long silence.
I wasn't expecting to see you again,
said Flair.
Something tells me you haven't come here to gloat.
No, said Trixie. She wasn't interested in small talk or trading bars with Flair today. Only one question remained, and then all business between them would be finished for good. I had to ask you something before you leave. Flair looked over her face as if sizing it up.
Oh,
what? He said, inclining his head as he did.
Go ahead.
As if I need your permission, Trixie said indignantly. Am I supposed to believe everything you said yesterday about us still being brother and sister, despite everything? Flair smiled and nodded sagely, as he knew he was going to ask. He probably had known, and Trixie wouldn't have been surprised if he had a whole speech written out for the occasion.
Believe it or not, Trixie, he said, it's the truth. I invited you here because I miss my sister. Is it so hard to...
Because you missed me? Trixie repeated. You've got a funny way of showing it. A normal pony would just invite their sister to dinner or something. Flair let out a chuckle.
Well, ours was never a normal relationship, was it?
Like you constantly trying to one-up me, you mean? Trixie threw back.
It seems to have a positive effect in the long run,
said Flair. He shook his head.
No, what I meant is that, sadly, I knew that changing you was the only way I could guarantee you would see me.
Trixie's lip curled. She had to fight herself to keep from stomping the ground frustration. She managed to bite back. In Twilight, she said, if you were just missing me, then what drove you to try and get between me and my partner?
Well, it wasn't just that I miss you,
said Flair with an annoying half-smile.
I was curious to see how you were doing after all this time. How you got on, what you were up to.
And, said Trixie, failing to see how this had anything to do with Twilight. Flair's smile seemed to soften a little.
And I can see that you clearly have grown and changed for the better. You embody traits now that I've never seen in you before. And I suspect that Twilight Sparkle is very much responsible for that.
Which is why you are so eager to get between us, of course, Trixie spat. She couldn't believe he expected her to buy this.
Like it or not, Trixie,
Flair said, cool as ever.
I am your big brother. It's my job to make sure that you're safe, and that the pony you've fallen for is serious for you.
Trixie found an uncomfortable heat in her face. The pony I've fallen for, as if that's any of his business. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can definitely say that, hey, at least Flair does a little bit better than Checker in one way. He's actually a little bit nicer. And Checker Mark's glaring at me. Well, I hope you're satisfied, she snapped, showing teeth. Good. Then stay on my personal business from now on. Flair shook his head, still smiling.
I have no intention of interfering any further. I've got what I came for. I got to see my sister again, for she has grown into a strong young mare. A pleasant surprise.
Trixie could only stand there, eyes narrowed and seizing rebelliously, as she heard the first rumblings of train wheels to get to the station. A passenger train was pulling in, making its way up alongside the platforms they stood on. Flair turned to watch as it ground to a halt with a typical screeching of wheels. Presumably, this was his train. As the doors opened and passengers began to disembark, he looked back to Trixie with another half-smile on his face.
Well, he said, this is my train.
The silence held between them. Polly strolled past and around them, some still leaving the train while others began to board it. But despite his obvious attempt to end the conversation, he didn't move, nor did Trixie. She still didn't know what to say. She wasn't certain there was anything to say. Much to her annoyance, the heat of her anger was already beginning to die down. She found herself finally beginning to consider the look on Flair's face. He was hiding something, as always, but Trixie couldn't put her hoof on it. If she didn't know better, Trixie was saying that he was actually being genuine. The smile seemed to fade as seconds went on. He lowered his gaze to the platform, turned his head to one side as he was trying to convince himself to leave, or perhaps convince himself not to. At any rate, it was him that finally broke the silence. After most of the airplanes had finished boarding the train, once again leaving them in relative quiet, he cleared his throat and piped up.
I know I've made a mess of things, Trixie,
He said. His words were quiet, measured, strangely unflare-like.
As I've said, I've always meant the best, but... All aboard!
Came a yell from the platform. A voice seemed to snap Flare out of some kind of daze. He looked to his left. Trixie followed his eyes to see Desert Rose boarding the train. Rose flashed Flare a look before she got on board. When his eyes made their way back to Trixie, they seemed to have regained a bit of their heads.
Well, at any rate, he said, I'm sure I'll hear about you in the news from time to time. You're celebrity now, after all. I think I can trust you and Twilight to take care of one another. I know you're in good hands now, and that's all I need to know.
And then he gulped and stood there, simply watching Trixie letting the words sink in. Then he nodded, turned, and made for the open train doors. Trixie was left in his wake, her mind just beginning to reboot. She watched his tail switch back and forth with a stride as he walked away. His words did sink in. In the past, she knew she would have just shrugged off what he said, turned and walked away with herself, her nose held high and flanks swinging. She still felt the urge to do that, even now, but it wasn't overpowering. She found herself giving thought to his stance, his tone. She closed her eyes. A long moment passed. Trixie took a deep breath, opened her eyes and strode forwards. Flare! Flare stopped, just sort of laying a hoof on the train. Slowly turned his head to face Trixie, his expression indifferent. Trixie flourished her horn and flicked backwards, bringing forth a single slip of paper from thin air. Flare eyed it as it floated down in front of his face, obviously not sure what to make of it.
What's this?
This is where you can find me if you need to send another letter, Trixie explained, her tone of face full set. Flare scanned the paper over a couple of times, then looked back up at Trixie, confused. I wouldn't want you spending all your consolation prize money on another courier to track me down, she said. Flare's expression went from confused to dumbstruck.
Trixie!
Stick in touch if you want, she said, interrupting before he could say anything, as she took a step closer and narrowed her eyes. But if you even think of turning up for a surprise visit...
I wouldn't dream of it,
said Flare quickly. With that, and a gentle smile, he took the paper with his own magic and stowed it inside his saddlebags.
All aboard! Last call!
Flare stepped onto the train car, but stayed by the door. He smiled at Trixie.
Thank you, Trixie. I'll speak to you soon.
Trixie tried to keep her face dead straight, not wanting to show any signs of emotion, just in case he was bluffing. Under he was, there'd be Tartarus to pay when they meet. Goodbye, Flare. That was that. The attendant galloped along the edge of the platform, closing and locking the train doors one by one. As Flare's was closed, he stepped up to the little, round window in the door and looked out at Trixie. She stayed where she was, watching as the train began to roll along the platform. She lost sight of Flare's eyes in seconds, and after seconds more, the train rolled all the way out of the station, gone. Now again, Trixie closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This had all been like she was expecting. She felt like she had done the right thing. As to whether this was a good or a bad thing, she supposed she just had to wait and see. Trixie! The yell made Trixie's ears stand up straight. She turned to look over her shoulder, towards the platform entrance, and saw a mistakenly purple figure darting between the ponies and queuing for tickets, knocking aside the ones who weren't swift enough to move. Trixie raised an eyebrow, and Slime Sparkle broke free from the crowd and caught sight of her. Trixie! She yelled again, breaking into a run. Wait! Trixie had barely opened her mouth to take a step, when Twilight disappeared in a flash of white light. A second later, the panicked purple pony materialized right in front of her, throwing her fetlocks to wrap herself around Trixie. Stunned with surprise, Trixie slowly reached up to pat Twilight in the back. She smiled slightly keep as she was wondering what was going on. Don't go! Twilight panted, her voice racked with heavy breaths. Not yet! We still have to fill out the documentation for the newspaper, and it'd be rude to leave without saying goodbye to the princess, and the hotel needs your signature for us to check out, and I even said... She started breathing too heavily for form words. She squeezed Trixie hard to keep from falling over, and Twilight had obviously run all the way here from the hotel. Though the book's mare was pretty good shape, all things considered, she clearly hadn't paced herself. Trixie's lips curled up into an understanding smile. Selena Twilight's embrace and ran a hoe through her midnight straight mane. And where do you think I'd be going? There was an inappropriate pause as Twilight struggled through the next few breaths. You let them know, she breathed. Trixie blinked. She went back over the note in her mind, trying to picture what she might have said to make her Twilight think that. Ah! She could have rolled her eyes or flicked her mane to effect. Trixie would have. As it was, she just had to put much Trixie into her voice as she could. Please, it's a great powerful Trixie you're leaving. She wouldn't just scribble a note in Venice. You know me better than that. It's hard not to notice, but Twilight's breathing started to slow down a little, almost right away. Relief showed through the way her group loosened and her chest seemed to relax. You're not leaving? She said. Of course I'm not leaving, said Trixie. Well, unless you think you need a break from all this greatness and power. No, Twilight said, shaking her head against Trixie's coat. Absolutely not. She laid Twilight stiff against her. Trixie moved back and allowed her partner to stand up straight. Their manes brushed against the chairs' faces as they pulled apart, sending electric warmth through Trixie's cheek, down her back. Twilight looked up at Trixie with a pair of lavender eyes, zealously searching for something. So, everything's all right? Twilight asked, breathing through her nose now. Trixie curled her lip and thought about that. Was everything all right? Her scenes with Flare had gone relatively smoothly, but whether or not it was a good idea to allow him to find her remained to be seen. Besides that, there was the fact that it was ridiculously early in the morning, and she was kind of hungry, and her body was starting to remind her how much effort she put into the past week by breaking out with groaning aches. But then, when she really thought about it, standing there, looking at Twilight's gently shimmering eyes, there was only one answer she could give. Trixie smiled and nodded. It is now.